Richard Lee Haynes Jr. So Richard Lee Haynes Jr., also known as Cody Haynes, went missing on the 9th of the 12th, 2004. It is under suspicious circumstances. It is involved with his father Richard Lee Haynes Sr. and his then live girlfriend Marla J. Hardin. They are from Kittitas in Washington. He's a white male. Date of birth is 4th of the 16th, 1993. He was age 11 when he went missing. He was 5 foot to 5'1", 90 pounds. He was last wearing a red hat and a red or grey coat. He has brown hair, blue eyes, and his nickname is Cody. He has a round birthmark on his inner right thigh. Richard Jr. resided with his father, Richard Sr., his 4 sisters, and Richard Sr.'s girlfriend, Marla J. Hardin, sometimes referred to as Maria Jane Hardin or Marla Hardin Haynes, in the second-floor apartment in the 100 block of North Main Street in downtown Kittitas in Washington. This was in 2004. Richard Jr. disappeared from his family's home between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. on September the 12th, 2004. He had refused to wash the dishes, and Marla punished him by making him sit in the kitchen table for 4 hours before sending him to his room. This was at midnight the previous day. Marla told Richard Jr.'s sister not to go near his bedroom and told Richard Jr. not to leave his bedroom for any reason. Evidently, no one had checked on him for close to 18 hours after. Richard Sr. was at work when Richard Jr. had got sent to his bedroom, but came home later and then left the house early morning hours to look for some car parts. He did not return until 4 p.m. Richard Jr. had apparently slipped out unnoticed during this time and had arranged his stuffed animals on the bed to make it look like he was asleep. He took a black and green camouflage pattern bag of clothing with him, but it was later found in a shed that was near his house. The investigators believe that Richard Jr. may have hidden the bag there and planned to return for it later. His bicycle was also found in his shed. There was a few possible sightings of Richard Jr. in the local area that was shortly after his disappearance. A neighbor may have seen him on the morning that he disappeared. Someone had believed that they saw him eating potato chips at Johnny Servue later that day. Neither sighting has been confirmed. Richard Sr. had notified the police that Richard Jr. was gone after he arrived home again that afternoon. Authorities believed at first that Richard Jr. had run away from home because he was unhappy at the way he was disciplined, and that he may try to travel to his mother, who lives in Florida. Richard Jr. did not arrive in Florida, and his mother has been eliminated as a suspect in his disappearance. A week after his disappearance, his sisters were removed from their father's home and was placed into foster care. The removal order had been alleged abuse, neglect, and a lack of supervision in the household, and was based mainly on the fact of Richard Jr. had been made to stay in his room for 18 hours without being able to eat, drink, and use of the toilet, and without being checked by an adult. Marla stated that he was very rebellious and very deceitful child and need to be disciplined. Richard Sr. and Marla, who married sometime after September 2004, have hired lawyers and will not cooperate with any investigators about Richard Jr.'s disappearance. The rest of his family has cooperated fully with the police. Before the children were taken from their home, Richard Sr. refused to allow police to question them. The family has a history with Washington Child Protective Services, which are called the CPS, late in 2001 and again in 2002. Richard Sr. was reported to the CPS for possibly physically and emotionally abusing and neglecting his children. Witnesses stated that the Haynes children were made to stand outside for long periods of time, and this was around winter, without any coats or any shoes. Both times the allegations were found to be without merit. Richard Jr. was in the 6th grade in 2004. He and his sisters were originally public school students, but became homeschooled after the CPS complaints had been made. On February 2005, police obtained a warrant searched in the Haynes residence. They had interviewed Richard Jr.'s sisters several times, and this was since their placement in the foster care. Initially, the girls said nothing had happened to their brother, but later Richard Jr.'s older sister told the investigators that he had been severely beaten inside his home on the day that he vanished. Police searched for traces of blood in the apartment's kitchen to back up the sister's story, but the flooring there had been replaced, and this was after Richard Jr.'s disappearance and without the landlord's knowledge or consent. A second search was made, and the police seized a computer and Richard Jr.'s Chevrolet Suburban. They searched Marlowe's car, and authorities made that they termed a, quote, significant discovery during one of these searches, but have not elaborated on what exactly it was that they found. Richard Jr. may have left on his own accord, but after receiving the information from his sister. The investigators announced that it could be a victim of homicide. They have no evidence that he was killed inside his home. The fact that he has not been heard from in so long is indicated that he may have been met with foul play. If anyone has any information on this case, they are to contact the investigating agency, which is the Kittitas Police Department, on 509 925 8534.